Welcome to New York. Today we have return engagement by Gordon Al and Jim McManus in their response to our gallery images based on beauty. And of course, the pandemic Playhouse players will present part two of our live rendition of The Man with Feet.
Okay, well, there's nothing much to say about I think the first couple of these, but this is just this is a bearded iris from around my neighborhood. We're fortunate that we're able to take some short walks with masks and social distancing nowadays. So yeah, that's that. If you're using Dave's HTML5 interface, and if you're using Anaglyph, I recommend playing around with the different Anaglyph options, like between the Dubois and the SPM. I don't think the optimized is there, but you'll see how the colors render quite differently using those methods. And this is again around my neighborhood. These are, I think, technically called bleeding hearts, but I like to call them trust turkeys. And if you, yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I just wanted to make it clear what you shot these with.
So these are all shot Cha-Cha with an iPhone SE, the old one. And then I do editing with a program called Image Magic, as well as one called Huggin, which are both freeware programs. And yes, another one from the neighborhood. I'm not sure what plant this is. Does anyone know? And anyway, I like the mix of kind of textures in here. If you want to see a stereo video version of this that kind of zooms in to get a closer look at the details here, I have that on my Instagram page. I'll post that later. Yeah, I think it's, yeah, I was thinking it might be olive holly. All right. Yeah.
Like they go. Explain why you have that little red border on the side, because I wanted to fix that, but I never fix anything without asking.
Oh, right. Good point. Yeah. So if you were here at a few meetings ago for the NYSA, I did a little presentation on basically asymmetrical framing techniques for stereo pairs, and this is an example of that. So if you look at the universal view down below and you free view those, you can see that basically the left edge of the frame and the right edge of the frame should appear to be at different depths when you see that in 3D. And basically that, for this picture, that was a choice to avoid cutting off that prominent leaf on the right-hand side of the picture, and just to show some more of the background on 3D on the left. But yeah, that's a technique I like to use, and of course you need to accommodate it in certain ways if you're converting to equal width formats like Anaglyph. So hence that stripe there.
And that of course goes away as you zoom in, right?
It depends on what type of zoom you use. You could zoom in and have basically keep the stripe be proportional, so the asymmetrical framing is there the whole time, or of course with this Anaglyph, you could just zoom into it as is, as opposed to dynamically respacing the two images as I usually do. Yeah. So the noteworthy thing about this is that so this is just a stock photo that I found online, but it was, as you might guess, not a stereo, but just a single 2D photo. But it just so happens that the reflection of the subject in the mirror here, when reversed, basically provides a complementary stereo pair, right? So the original picture, I believe, is the one in the middle on the bottom. That's the original picture. But basically, I straightened it out to make it horizontally level, and then just mirrored it below. And as you can see, that works pretty well. It's possible to do this with a wide variety of found photos, and also with things like water reflections. Also, it's possible to bring the mirror and instead mount it and make it part of your camera. I'll post a few links to a few people who have tried to have experimented with a variety of these so-called catadioptric stereo systems. where catadioptric is just basically refers to any system that uses a combination of lenses and mirrors to capture an image. And this is another similar example, again, from a single 2D stock photo.
I love the shot. I love the composition, and I love the fact that she's just about to flip you the bird. It's it's a great, it was such a clever use, man. I got, it's incredible. And again, it's just a stock image, right? You found on online, right?
Yeah. It's been interesting to search for these online and see when they work, but in all cases to realize that there's a lot of this kind of latent 3D information in a lot of images out there.
Yeah, I liked what you said, the latent 3D information that just resides, and it's really tremendous. Thank you once again. Jim is based out of Orlando, Florida. He's designed and built a variety of custom 3D camera rigs. Some of his work is displayed permanently at the 3D exhibit at the new Cave of the Winds Visitor Center. Without further ado, I pass you on to Jim McManus.
Excellent. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you inviting everybody back once again for what's really turning out to be a fun weekly thing. And again, thank you for making the HTML5 option available. I recommend to everybody, like was mentioned before, try either the Dubois or the half-color anaglyph, which work really well and don't give you a headache. An anaglyph has the advantage of being larger, so you appreciate more detail. So here we are, the first shot I took back on my honeymoon back in 1998. This was on the beach in Negril, Jamaica. I sort of figured my theme of beauty this week would be big outdoor spaces that we're not able to enjoy right now because we're all trapped indoors. So I like the shot here because you feel the warmth of the sun on your face. You want to dip your toes, you feel the sand between your toes. This was actually originally taken with an old rig I built made of two old SLRs, which were Pentax Spotmatic rigs, which had old screw mount lenses and completely manual, everything about them. And so for a long time, I just shot slide film because it was easy to have them developed only and then mount them myself in the 2x2 normal full frame slide mounts. And so this was one of my early successful trips, but boy, that thing was a beast to lug around the island of Jamaica, that's for sure. All right, here we are in Asheville, North Carolina, and or near Asheville. This was a little hidden waterfall I found up in the mountains, and I just was really struck by the soft lighting, which a lot of times when you're up there and you find a waterfall, there's a break in the trees, so you'll get like harsh spots of light coming in. And I'm not saying that's ugly nature by any means, but for pictures, it's hard to get this nice, even, diffused lighting. So I really, oh, the other thing about this was a handheld shot, and I believe it was almost about a quarter of a second, judged by what my ear could tell, and which is impossible to hold something that steady, but I got lucky, and I got one out of the bunch that was really crisp and clear. So I just like, everything about this. By the way, this was shot with the good old Fuji W3. And after I took this photo, I did another series where I went higher and then one about where this one was taken and then one lower. And one day I'm going to merge them all together and create a big sort of IMAX monster thing. But for this show, if you'll notice, I went sort of with a widescreen format, 16:9, because I figured it would help fill up everybody's screen a little better, especially when you put the left, right, left smaller images beneath it. So anyway, the next image takes us to a different kind of waterfall. This was up in Alaska back on 2008, and we were on a small boat which can get closer up than the large cruise ships. And I basically let the boat do the displacement for me. So this is a hyper. Let's call it a super cha-cha. And I let the boat drift, probably I wasn't in charge. The boat just drifted about 50 feet before I took and I was taking photos the whole way. And I picked like probably the outer two pair. And what I like about this is normally that would be an error right in the middle. You see the water was slightly different in both shots because of the time difference. But I like it because it gives it a sense of motion for this particular shot. If it didn't, it would look like just another, like you couldn't tell if that was a flow of ice dripping down the side, but you can really tell there's motion there, there's some water. And by the way, this cliff is probably 500 feet high. So I'm a sucker for a good hyper because you can see the world like you can't see otherwise. You would never be able to see that amount of depth just with your naked eyes. And by the way, this was shot with a custom little rig made of little off-the-shelf Sanyo point and shoots that were cheap. So if I soldered them together and I blew one up, it wasn't expensive to replace it. And I just twinned those together and basically soldered them to where one shutter button would trigger both of them, no matter which one I pressed. And, most of them, for the most part, the color and the focus was the same, and rarely were they off, but nowadays you can fix that in Photoshop anyway. So thank you very much. And then this one is Oak Creek Canyon in Arizona, between Flagstaff and actually between Sedona and Flagstaff. There's a bridge that cuts over this canyon, and I basically just walked. This was back when I was still shooting film with that old twin SLR rig I told you about. And here they were mounted on a horizontal bar with a twin shutter release cable. So I could hit the plunger and both of them would fire at the same time. But of course they're all manual, so I had to do the settings ahead of time. But you can notice Oak Creek down there in the right-hand corner, and there's actually some tiny hikers and swimmers down there that you can barely see. And because this was such a long hyper, I would say these were about 25 feet apart, they were actually out of sync between these two shots. And so when I submitted these shots to John and we went over them on Thursday, I was like, oh yeah, I'll mention that I could fix those now with a couple easy conversion techniques. And it just bothered me just enough to where I went ahead and I fixed it yesterday. And now the people look like these two shots were taken at the exact same time. So that's another use of conversion. You can actually fix errors in your own stereo shots, especially in hypers and things like that. But I just love the sense, again, of hypers. You feel like a giant. In this case, you look like you're down on your knees looking down through the canyon. And you can just see like the little trails, and all the trees look like they're on a model railroad set. So I love a good hyper. And I think there's one more. And oh yeah, this was near Blue Springs, Florida, just a few hours north of me here in Orlando. Every year, we're able to go up there and see the manatees, which swim in from the coast into inland to seek warmer water, and they breed. They mate and breed there. This particular shot doesn't have any manatees in it, but if you'll notice, there's some long, dark stripes in the water. Those are garfish, and there was a bunch of them. I figured they were mating too as well. But again, I just love, much like that first beach scene, you can almost feel the warmth. You feel the moss swaying in the breeze a little bit. And this was shot with the old original Fuji 1 before they came out with the Fuji W1 before they came out with the W3. And that was a workhorse camera for a long time. And now the W3 is just a great pocket camera to have. But I'm very often I schlep around my huge double SLR rig, and I've not only got the old film setup, but the new digital rig as well. So I love to make things a little difficult, but as you can see, the results are usually worth it. So thank you guys. I really appreciate you letting me share these.
Well, thank you. That was great. Without further ado, I bring you the Pandemic Playhouse Players and its live performance.
Last week on The Man with F.E.E.T, Jack Strider and F.E.E.T, his footwear-based electronically engineered emulation technology, traced the sale of a stash of dangerous radioactive glitteranium to a shady beach ball mogul named Artemis Duvier. In the beach ball factory, Jack teams up with Simone, the beach ball king's daughter, to find a list of women's names in a mysterious file called Project Bravo. They'd just sent that information back to Shoe Lab when they were overtaken by arms pirate Fledgem Sizigbo at gunpoint. And now, the exciting conclusion of The Man with F.E.E.T. Sizigbo led Simone, Jack, and F.E.E.T onto the beach ball factory floor at gunpoint. As he marched forward, he threw a switch that started the maze of machinery grinding. Jack looked for a way out, but saw none.
I've come too far to let you ruin this for me. Get into the beach ball bin.
But it's filling up with hay!
Whoa!
Sizigbo pushed her and Jack and F.E.E.T over the edge. They dropped 15 feet down into the hopper, landing with a squeaky thud on a rolling sea of beach balls.
Marcel can't hear you, Simone. These walls are made out of acoustin-neutralizing aluminum.
As the bin gradually filled, the vinyl spheres rubbed against their skin, which soon caused some significant sweatiness and discomfort.
We've got to get out of here!
You're right. I'm pretty sure these beach balls could eventually hurt us somehow. Maybe by suffocation? I don't know. One thing's for sure. Sizigbo wouldn't have thrown us in here if it weren't dangerous. Or at least very inconvenient.
Dr. Swarner and Kincaid back at Shoe Lab wondered why they'd lost contact with F.E.E.T and Jack.
I hope they're okay.
F.E.E.T must have powered down. I'm sure it was for good reason.
I certainly hope so. Did you find anything out about those names?
I didn't. But one of our top agents and his dummy, Inspector Drippy, did. See? Isabel, Elsa, Alice, Rosa. They're not names of women. They're names of cities. Cities in Texas, all less than 120 miles away from the Rio Grande River.
I don't get it.
Well, our simulation shows that if 5 somewhat destructive glitteranium bombs were to explode at the aquifers nearest those cities, the whole Rio Grande River would be diverted, and with it the legal United States-Mexico border, thus creating hundreds of miles of new American beaches.
Where he could sell millions of dollars worth of beach ball. Oh my! Where could Jack be?
A wave of puffy, colorful plastic crushed down between Jack and Simone.
We're done for!
Then F.E.E.T suddenly powered on. F.E.E.T activated. Diagnostic completed. Hello, Jack.
F.E.E.T, I can't reach you.
Simone's hand suddenly appeared through the beach balls.
Simone, can you grab F.E.E.T's accessory pack?
Yes! I got it!
Good. Now find the microphone module and plug it into F.E.E.T's left audio input. Set his frequency transposition to 50.965.
How do I do that?
Also, in the accessory pack, you will find an instruction manual. Time was running out. Luckily, because of Dr. Swerner's brilliant scientific mind, F.E.E.T's instruction manual was very clear and well written, and she had taken the time to make a truly useful index and troubleshooting guide. It took no time at all for Simone to set the delay.
Now what?
Call Marcel. F.E.E.T can now bypass the acoustoneutralizing.
Marcel! Halt all beach ball production! Good boy!
Marcel heard Simone's feet modulated cry and stopped the assembly line, as he'd been trained to do in case of an emergency. The machines grinded to a stop. Jack and Simone celebrated as F.E.E.T used his grappling tassel to hoist them back onto the factory floor, where they were reunited with Marcel. After watching the dog lick Simone's face for a few minutes, Jack spoke up.
I gotta get back to Shoe Lab. Let's go.
They ran out of the factory, surprised to find it was already morning.
Now what?
Do you know where your dad eats brunch?
Sure, Mr. Brunch, over by the airport.
Okay. Meet me there between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
Will do. Be careful, Jack.
Jack ran back to the lab in seconds, thanks to both F.E.E.T's hyper-speedy souls and the fact that the factory was just a few doors down. Dr. Swerner rushed to him.
Thank heavens you're safe.
I'm fine. It's F.E.E.T that needs a little help.
As Dr. Swerner worked with intense focus, Jack filled her in on his theory.
Remember when Sizigbo got away that first time a few years ago? F.E.E.T malfunctioned right when we were storming his warehouse. We never figured out why. But now I see that he only failed when we got close to the glitteranium. Same thing this time. Some kind of radioactivity from that stuff is causing the malfunctions.
Well, I'll give F.E.E.T a buffing with this brown shoe polish and anti-isosopal agent. Then he can get as close to that glitteranium as you want.
After several minutes more of work, Dr. Swerner leaned back.
That should do it.
Looks nice.
I bet you say that to all the shoes, said F.E.E.T, who was programmed to make that joke. Later, Zigbo and Duvier were at Mr. Brunch, eating brunch.
You gonna give me that money now?
Jack appeared as if from nowhere, but was actually in the next booth over.
Sorry to break this up, fellas.
Zigbo and Duvier threw plates of huevos rancheros and a chicken club, respectively, into Jack's face and feet sensors, respectively.
Catch!
Before Jack and F.E.E.T had gotten their bearings, the criminals had paid their check, gotten on motorcycles, and taken off with the glitteranium. Jack and F.E.E.T ran out and quickly commandeered a citizen station wagon. They screeched into action, chasing the two crooks at high speed through the streets of the city, causing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage and seriously injuring 4 pedestrians. Eventually, F.E.E.T's fancy driving moves knocked the crooks off their bikes. Duvier scrambled to grab the glitteranium and get away. Unfortunately, for the bad guys, they were now on foot, and on foot is where F.E.E.T is at his best. Before they knew it, the criminals were caught in a laser lace beam. As a policeman booked Duvier, binding him in handcuffs, Simone approached slowly.
Daddy? But why? Why would you want to hurt all those people? Just to sell beach balls in what would then be formerly Mexico?
I'm sorry, my darling. I was worried that there would never be a comprehensive free trade agreement. I guess I took things too far.
Don't you know that diverting waterway-defined international borders is never a good way to solve anything?
I know now. I know now. Simone, tell your mother I love her.
I'm not sure you really love anyone but yourself.
Marcel barked in agreement. Zigbo and Duvier were now behind bars, and the glitteranium was safely put away in an AUB vault. Simone and Marcel met Jack, Dr. Swerner, and F.E.E.T at Shoe Lab for a celebratory gelatin dessert potluck. Kincaid joined the fun through the holocom screen, enlivening the party with his talent show award-winning trombone performance. Even F.E.E.T was enjoying himself. I am having what I believe common American slang would refer to as a ball.
Don't say ball.
The group exploded with laughter. F.E.E.T laughed too, because he was programmed to laugh at the joke at the end of each of his adventures. The end. Nice moves, David Kuntz.
It happens every day, no matter what you say. Love will never do what you want it to.
Well, I'm a comedy writer in my day job, and I love 3D, and had been trying to figure out a way to do both at the same time for quite a while. And then I had a 2-week break from work, and I thought, oh, maybe I can get something done. And I put it together really quickly, rented a space, hired some actors, and did it.
Did you screen the actors? Did you do a test run of the actors, or
what's that?
Did you do rehearsal with the actors and test run a casting call?
I mean, they're mostly people I knew from the comedy scene in the photos. It's not the same people who did the voices here.
Right. I know that. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah. And what year was it?
2010. I shot it in September of 2010.
A classic.
What did you shoot it? What did you shoot it with, Eric?
I shot it with the probably 75 to 80% of it was shot with the dual Canon S90 using Stereo Data Maker, which was the 95 had just come out, so this was almost as good as you could get at the time. But I'm very happy with how it came out.
Oh, it came out great. And the other 20% of the time, what were you using?
I was using same thing, Stereo Data Maker, but I was using a smaller Canon ELPH camera that didn't have as high resolution or image stabilization, things like that.
Are any of those shots in the reels?
And it was in a fixed frame, so I couldn't change the interocular distance like I can change these.
Were any of those in the? Did you use any of those shots from the ELPH?
Which ones?
From the ELPH. Did you use any of those images at all?
Yes, yeah. I think a couple of the outdoor images were shot with the ELPH. Not because I felt like it would be a better rig for that, but at a certain point at the end of the day, one of the three cameras that I was using, the S90 rig, gave out, and I had to, go to a backup.
Where did you shoot it?
All around the city. A friend of mine runs an acting studio, and I shot the shoe lab scenes and the factory scenes there in that space, and it was easy because they have lights set up and a stage set up, so it was fairly easy to do.
I thought that was a real beach ball factory.
No, that is not how they make beach. They don't
Oh,
make beach
no.
balls fully inflated.
Say it ain't so.
It's true. They don't come fully inflated like that.
That was Hollywood magic, Carlton.
I'm so disappointed.
Yeah,
we built all the set, and actually Sarah Hirsch, who's here as one of our readers today, was on the set and helped us build all the stuff. I had a what do you call it? I had a like a craft cutting thing that would cut out stuff from cardboard and leather and things like that, and I kind of mass produced these little pieces of track for the beach balls to go on. I rented a couple of the pieces of the beach ball factory, but a lot of it was just put together by hand. I don't know what you remember, Sarah, about that. You're
I unmuted myself. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't really remember much. I just remember a lot of cutting up rounded edge squares of this cardboard, which I actually think I ended up taking some, since I'm a little bit of a material hoarder for my prop building work. So yeah, I just remember cutting a bunch of that, and it was fun. It was nice. Yeah. You were very organized. You had it like really well planned out. So
Real
good job.
director.
Well, the next big question, I know everybody's waiting to hear the answer to. Where are the shoes today?
Unfortunately, the shoes do no longer exist. They were built by built by my friend Brendan, who is a prop guy right now at the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and when it got lost somewhere in the move from the Colbert Report to the Late Show.
Hey, Eric.
Yeah.
Eric Curland here. I have a question. What was your process once you had the production done to actually get the Viewmaster reels?
So I worked. This was 2010. This is a couple years before Alpha Cine was still doing custom reels. So I was working with I can't remember her name,
We got a feedback person. Okay.
in Rochester, New York. What was her name? I worked with actual Viewmaster people.
Deborah Borer.
Deborah, yes, exactly, Deborah Borer, and they were terrific and helped me get everything done. Do you know who that is? Do you know? It was apparently one of the last 4 or 5 projects that were done using those old machines that then went down to Mexico and then disappeared.
I noticed there was no credit for a dog wrangler.
It wasn't a real dog.
Oh, that's another good question. Where is that dog today?
I think that dog was donated to.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else. Okay. So
And-
it was kind of like, in a way, put to sleep.
And how many beach balls died during this production?
I don't know. I ordered a lot of beach balls.
And where are the beach balls today? I'm just going to keep this up until we.
I actually have a fair bit. I have a fair number of the beach balls.
That was a side benefit of doing this. You have a life.
Yeah.
You're never going to run out of beach balls.
Well,
If
it
you,
was.
if you could get the man
like
with
what
logo
it
onto
was
the
a
beach balls.
It was a decision made on what is cheap and colorful and takes up a lot of space.
Maybe
Hey,
you
listen.
should just tell us at this point what you still have from the production, just so that we can
Thank you,
avoid
Sarah.
any future questions. I'm just suggesting.
You killed my whole shtick. Okay.
I still have the wig. Yeah, the wig is the same wig I wear in that thing you saw, Max.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still have the that? I love the shot of Marcel working the wheel to stop the assembly line.
Oh, the telegraph. No, that was a rented prop.
Okay.
The ship, anything that was big, like the machine, like the computer in the vintage computer in Shoe Lab, like the oscilloscope, the ship telegraph, those were all rented from a prop house.
And that was through your pal, the prop guy. He probably had all those contacts. Or did you do it?
No, I mean I went to a prop house and I
Okay.
paid money and they.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a link to the wig.
Great job.
Yeah.
It's not just the wig. Sorry, it's Eric. I put a link to your criteria dumb thing.
Yeah, I made a dumb video this week. Enjoy.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good.
Man. Well, what more can we say? The pandemic Playhouse players did a great job. Unless anyone has any more questions, I'm out of shtick.
When is F.E.E.T. 2 coming out?
I don't know. It's probably not going to come out as a Viewmaster reel. That was. If I had known what it would take to do that, I would not have done it. So,
well, it should probably be like a VR, fully immersive VR adventure.
I
think you should do home stereo cards.
Do it as a set of realist slides, and then you can hand the viewers around.
That would work too.
Well, I still want to be Fligum Sisbo. If you have to recast, please at least give me a shot.
All right. High heel version. I like that idea, Patricia.